Okay, let me just check. It's right. The present leadership of the Congress, especially during the last 10 years, has been responsible for alienating the Muslims of India more and more by pursuing a policy which is exclusively Hindu. And since they have formed the governments in 6 provinces, where they are in a majority, they have by their words, deeds, and program shown more and more that the Muslims cannot expect any justice or fair play at their hands. Wherever they are in majority and wherever it suited them, they refused to cooperate with the Muslim League parties and demanded unconditional surrender and signing of their pledges. The demand was insistent. Abjure your part and forswear your policy and program and liquidate the Muslim League. But where they found that they had not a majority, like the Northwest Frontier Province, their state sacred principle of collective responsibility disappeared, and promptly the Congress party was allowed in that province to coalesce any other group. That any individual Muslim member who was willing to unconditionally surrender and sign their pledge was offered a job as a minister and was passed off as a Muslim minister, although he did not command the confidence or the respect of an overwhelming majority of the Muslim representatives in the legislature. These men are allowed to move about and pass off as Muslim ministers for the loyal services they have rendered to the Congress by surrendering and signing the pledge unconditionally, and the degree of their reward is the extent of their perfidy. Hindi is to be the national language of all India, and that Bande Mataram is to be the national song and is to be forced upon all. The Congress flag is to be obeyed and revered by all and sundry. On the very threshold of what little power and responsibility is given, the majority community have clearly shown their hand that Hindustan is for the Hindus. The result of the present Congress party policy will be, I venture to say, class bitterness, communal war, and strengthening of the imperialistic hold as a consequence. No settlement with the majority community is possible, as no Hindu leader speaking with any authority shows any concern or genuine desire for it. Honorable settlement can only be achieved between equals, and unless the two parties learn to respect and fear each other, there is no solid ground for any settlement. Offers of peace by the weaker party always means confession of weakness and an invitation to aggression. Appeals to patriotism, justice, and fair play and for goodwill will fall flat. It does not require political wisdom to realize that all safeguards and settlements would be a scrap of paper unless they are backed up by power. Politics means power and not relying only on cries of just or fair play or goodwill. I want the Muslims to ponder over the situation and decide their own fate by having one single, definite, uniform policy which should be loyally followed throughout India. The Congressite Muslims are making a great mistake when they preach unconditional surrender. It is the height of defeatist mentality to throw themselves on the mercy and goodwill of others, and the highest act of perfidy to the Muslim community. And if that policy is adopted, let me tell you, Community will seal its doom and will cease to play its rightful part in the national life of the country and the government. Only one thing can save the Muslims and energize them to regain their lost ground. They must first recapture their own souls and stand by their lofty position and principles which form the basis of their great unity and which bind them in one body politic. The next one is from Time and Tide, published in January 1940, under the title The Constitutional Maladies of India. The constitutional maladies from which India at present suffers may best be described as symptoms of a disease inherent in the body politic. Without diagnosing the disease, no understanding of the symptoms is possible and no remedy can suggest itself. Let us, therefore, first diagnose the disease, then consider the symptoms, and finally arrive at the remedy. What is the political future of India? The declared aim of the British government is that India should enjoy dominion status in accordance with the Statute of Westminster in the shortest practicable time. In order that this end should be brought about, the British government very naturally would like to see in India the form of democratic constitution it knows best and thinks best, under which the government of the country is entrusted to one or other political party in accordance with the turn of the elections. Such, however, is the ignorance about Indian conditions among even the members of the British Parliament that, in spite of all the experience of the past, it is even yet not realized that this form of government is totally unsuited to India. Democratic systems based on the concept of a homogeneous nation, such as England, are very definitely not applicable to heterogeneous countries such as India, and this simple fact is the root cause of all India's constitutional ills. The British people must realize that Hinduism and Islam represent two distinct and separate civilizations, and moreover are as distinct from one another in origin, tradition, and manner of life as are nations of Europe. If, therefore, it is accepted that there are in India a major and a minor nation, it follows that a parliamentary system based on the majority principle must inevitably mean the rule of the major nation. Experience has proved that whatever the economic and political program of any political party, the Hindu, as a general rule, will vote for his caste fellow and the Muslim for his co-religionist. The British people, being Christians, sometimes forget the religious wars of their own history and today consider religion as a private and personal matter between man and God. This can never be the case in Hinduism and Islam, for both these religions are definite social codes which govern not so much man's relation with his God as man's relation with his neighbor. They govern not only his law and culture but every aspect of his social life, and such religions, essentially exclusive, completely preclude that merging of identity and unity of thought on which Western democracy is based. March 1940 meeting of Muslim League in Lahore. The problem in India is not of an intercommunal character, but manifestly of an international one, and it must be treated as such. So long as this basic and fundamental truth is not realized, any constitution that may be built will result in disaster and will prove destructive and harmful not only to the Muslims but to the British and Hindus also. British government are really in earnest and sincere to secure peace and happiness of the people of this subcontinent. The only course open to us all is to allow the major nations separate homelands by dividing India into autonomous national states. There is no reason why these states should be antagonistic to each other. On the other hand, the rivalry and the natural desire and efforts on the part of one to dominate the social order and establish political supremacy over the other in the government of the country will disappear. It will lead more towards natural goodwill by international pacts between them, and they can live in complete harmony with their neighbors. This will lead further to a friendly settlement all the more easily with regard to minorities by reciprocal arrangements and adjustments between Muslim Indian and Hindu India, which will far more adequately and effectively safeguard the rights and interests of Muslims and various other minorities. It is extremely difficult to appreciate why our Hindu friends fail to understand the real nature of Islam and Hinduism. They are not religions in the strict sense of the word, but are in fact different and distinct social orders. And it is a dream that the Hindus and Muslims can ever evolve a common nationality. And this misconception of one Indian nation has gone far beyond the limits and is the cause of most of your troubles and will lead India to destruction if we fail to revise our notions in time. The Hindus and Muslims belong to two different religious philosophies, social customs, and literatures. They neither intermarry nor interdine together, and indeed they belong to two different civilizations which are based mainly on conflicting ideas and conceptions. Their aspects on life and of life are different. It is quite clear that Hindus and Muslims derive their inspiration from different sources of history. They have different epics, different heroes, and different episodes. Very often, the hero of one is a foe of the other, and likewise, their victories and defeats overlap. To yoke together two such nations under a single state, as one as a numerical minority and the other as a majority, must lead to growing discontent and final destruction of any fabric that may be so built up for the government of such a state. History has shown to us many geographical tracts, much smaller than the subcontinent of India, which otherwise might have been called one country, but which have been divided into as many states as there are nations inhabiting them. Balkan Peninsula comprises as many as 7 or 8 sovereign states. Likewise, the Portuguese and the Spanish stand divided in the Iberian Peninsula. Whereas under the plea of unity of India and one nation, which does not exist, it is sought to pursue here the line of one central government, when we know that the history of the last 1200 years has failed to achieve unity and has witnessed during the ages India always divided into Hindu India and Muslim India. The present artificial unit of India dates back only to the British conquest and is maintained by the British bayonet, but termination of the British regime will be the herald of the entire breakup with worse disaster than has ever taken place during the last 1000 years under Muslims. Surely that is not the legacy which Britain bequeathed to India after 150 years of her rule, nor would Hindu and Muslim India risk such a sure catastrophe. Muslim India cannot accept any constitution which must necessarily result in a Hindu majority government. Hindus and Muslims brought together under a democratic system forced upon the minorities can only mean Hindu Raj. Democracy of the kind with which the Congress High Command is enamored would mean the complete destruction of what is most precious in Islam. We have had ample experience of the working of the provincial constitution during the last 2.5 years, and any repetition of such a government must lead to civil war. Muslims in India are not a minority as it is commonly known and understood. Muslims are a nation according to any definition of a nation, and they must have their homelands, their territory, and their state. We wish to live in peace and harmony with our neighbors as a free and independent people. We wish our people to develop to the fullest our spiritual, cultural, economic, social, and political life in a way that we think best and in consonance with our own ideals and according to the genius of our people. Honesty demands, and the vital interests of millions of our people impose, a sacred duty upon us to find an honorable and peaceful solution which would be just and fair to all. But at the same time, we cannot be moved or diverted from our purpose and objective by threats or intimidations. We must be prepared to face all difficulties and consequences, make all the sacrifices that may be required of us to achieve the goal we have set in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the task before us. I fear I have gone beyond my time limit. Anyhow, I have placed before you the task that lies ahead of us. Do you realize how big and stupendous it is? Do you realize that you cannot get freedom or independence by mere arguments? I should appeal to the intelligentsia. The intelligentsia in all countries in the world have been the pioneers of any movements for freedom. What does the Muslim intelligentsia propose to do? I may tell you that unless you get this into your blood, unless you are prepared to take off your coats and are willing to sacrifice all that you can and work selflessly, earnestly, and sincerely for your people, you will never realize your aim. Friends, I therefore want you to make up your mind definitely and then think of devices and organize your people, strengthen your organization, and consolidate the Muslims all over India. I think that the masses are wide awake. They only want your guidance and your lead. Come forward as servants of Islam, organize the people economically, socially, educationally, and politically, and I am sure that you will be a power that will be accepted by everybody. Cheers. Now, speech to Students Union of Aligarh Muslim University, March 1941. Mr. Jinnah began by expressing his warmest thanks for the deep affection and regard shown to him by the Aligarh students. Proceeding, he said that when he addressed them last year, the Lahore resolution, popularly known as Pakistan, had not been passed, but he had noticed that they were anxious for the declaration of the ideal embodied in the Lahore resolution. In other parts of India, he had noticed the same feeling. Mr. Jinnah said, as reported by Ahmad, editor, recent speeches and writings. What I have done is to declare boldly what was stirring the heart of Muslim India. The whole Hindu press, Hindu leaders, Congress got hysterical about it. They raised a storm of opposition. But all the press propaganda, vituperation, misrepresentation, and hysterical outbursts have not changed our position. I have asserted on numerous occasions that the democratic parliamentary system of government, as they have in England and other Western countries, is entirely unsuited to India. I was condemned in the Congress press as enemy of India's freedom. But the truth of the statement is gradually dawning on the minds of all thinking persons. In everything that is fundamental and essential to life, Hindus and Muslims differ. It is no use shutting one's eyes to realities. Among Hindus themselves, there are schisms and exclusive castes and subcastes. Between them, they make a most undemocratic society, yet they have suddenly fallen in love with democracy. They talk of nothing else but democracy, laughter. In Bombay recently, a swimming bath on the seashore was opened for the exclusive use of the Hindus. They are not prepared to swim with the Muslims, even in the sea. I do not want to ridicule the feelings of the Hindus. I respect everyone's religious feelings. I am only referring to these things to show how deep is the difference between the Hindus and the Muslims. It would be no wisdom to proceed to build for India a constitution on the assumption as if these differences did not exist. By ignoring the realities and the difficulties in the way of fitting India into a simple democratic system, the Hindus will be doing the greatest harm to their own people. Democracy of the kind they want to impose on India is an impossibility, for even the conditions which make diluted democracy possible in other countries are absent from India. The sooner the idea is given up, the better. It was therefore after mature consideration that we passed the Lahore Resolution, which advocates the establishment of independent sovereign states in regions of Muslim majority, namely the northwest and the northeast of India, and also provides for mandatory safeguards for minorities in the regional states and their units. Now, it does not require a great genius or a great constitutionalist to understand the scheme of partition. Without waiting to consider the scheme on its merits, the Congress and other Hindu circles became hysterical about it as if it were a nightmare or some dangerous animal. Laughter. As a matter of fact, Pakistan has been there for centuries. It is there today and it will remain till the end of the world. Cheers. It was taken away from us. We have only to take it back. What is the title of the Hindus to it? How can we be prevented from claiming what is our own? It is really more in the interest of the Hindus themselves. What, after all, does the League say? Zones with clear Muslim majority are to be demarcated and allowed to establish independent states of their own with the necessary territorial readjustments. Under the scheme, two-thirds of India goes to the Hindus where they can have their own states. They should be content with their due share. They can never have the whole of India. The old slogans against Pakistan, such as vivisection of India, cutting Mother India into two, and cutting the mother cow, have been given up. They have now begun to ask whether they will be safe if India is partitioned. The Hindu press has raised the bogey that if India is partitioned, the Muslims will overrun the entire country. It is a baseless insinuation. For if that is the Hindu fear, may I know how do they then propose to rule over the whole of India? In Pakistan, there will be no more than 70 million Muslims. Hindu India will consist of no less than 220 million Hindus. Do they mean to say that these 220 million cannot hold their freedom against a mere 70? Then it is said that the future of India will not be safe, as all the invasions have come from the northwest of India, and that Pakistan itself will not be able to ward off such invasions. It is said that a united India, a democratic India alone can withstand such attacks, and therefore there should be a central democratic government of India. By having a central government and a majority in the ballot box, they think they can make the country safe from invasion. Laughter. Further, our Hindu friends asked the Muslim minorities as to how Pakistan was going to benefit from them, sorry, going to benefit them, and that they would suffer at the hand of the Hindus. As for the invasions from the northwest, may I know where did the Portuguese come from? Where did the French come from? And where did our English masters come from? Was it through the Khyber Pass? They came from the coasts. But we know that, as a matter of fact, modern warfare knows no frontiers. The decisive weapon of modern war is their air arm. The land and the sea powers have taken a secondary position. Let us therefore live as good neighbors. Let the Hindus guard the south and west, and let the Muslims guard the frontiers. We will then stand together and say to the world, hands off India, India for the Indians. Cheers. The second objection, which concerns Muslim minorities, has no force. As a self-respecting people, we in the Muslim minority provinces say boldly that we are prepared to undergo every suffering and sacrifice for the emancipation and liberation of our brethren in regions of Muslim majority. By standing in their way and dragging them along with us into a united India, we do not in any way improve our position. Instead, we reduce them also to the position of a minority. But we are determined that whatever happens to us, we are not going to allow our brethren to be vassalized by the Hindu majority. But the fact is that the creation of these independent states will be the surest guarantee for the fair treatment of the minorities. When the time for consultation and negotiations comes, the case of Muslims in the minority provinces will certainly not go by default. Pakistan is not only a practicable goal, but the only goal if you want to save Islam from complete annihilation in this country. We have yet to go a long way. Pakistan is there, but we have to take it. It is easier to achieve freedom than to keep it. England and America are independent states, but how hard they have to struggle to preserve their independence. We have to prepare ourselves. Make yourself strong. Prepare your people in education, trade, industries, commerce, and defense. The problems before us will be how to maintain internal security and ward off external aggression. Freedom cannot be achieved or kept by the spinning of charkas. We should be prepared to fight and defend our homes and ideals we cherish. Chase. The realization of Pakistan is in your hands. Aligarh is the arsenal of Muslim India, and you are its best soldiers. Go to the countryside, educate our people and uplift them. Explain to our people what is our goal. There are many who are trying to mislead them. Let them understand things, and then they will march on to their destined goal. The time has now come to devote yourselves more and more to the constructive program. I ask you to spend your vacations in attending to constructive work like the spread of literacy, social uplift, economic betterment, and greater political consciousness and discipline among our people. We want to establish Muslim states in the northwest and the northeast of India so that the peaceful and neighborly relations may be maintained between Hindus and Muslims. This is the only way to restore lasting peace and happiness to the country. I have learned from reliable sources that in responsible circles in England and even in Congress circles, this scheme is being seriously considered. Let us therefore march on to our goal. The time comes, and when you are ready, I will tell you what to do. Prolonged cheers. Okay, that was Jinnah about his Pakistan. Okay. One thing is curious, he had been continuously arguing against democracy. I think up till 47 he was doing that. And when he gave up his anti-democratic stance is something we should ask ChatGPT or maybe read from the speeches and other things. Okay, let me close this here.